Welcome to the C.S. Joseph Podcast. I'm your host, C.S. Joseph. Today's Acolyte question, which is a really great question. I'm so happy to have this question. But it is, how can INTJs begin to trust again? Oh, yes. What a great question. I'm so happy. I am so stoked for this question because I am consistently the victim of this concept with INTJs, such that it is my number one gripe about INTJs. This is actually the number one thing that inhibits me from connecting with, for example, an INTJ woman, or even having a relationship with her. Oh, men suck. Men hurt me in the past, so you're going to hurt me too. And it's just like, yeah, whatever. Apparently, like, my character is the same as all of the other men that you've ever had in your life. Okay, cool, whatever. You're lost. I'm moving on. You know what I'm saying? But it happens consistently. So we might stick to the context of relationships for answering this particular episode. But this has practical application in all contexts, all social contexts, when it comes to INTJs. INTJs, due to introverted sensing demon, have this problem where they get entirely bitter. They get so bitter, where, like, if they get just one person who wrongs them, they'll never forget being wronged by that person, and they will look for traits or similarities with their extroverted thinking parent inside of other people in order to cross-detect those traits, such that hoping that they can anticipate another person doing the exact same thing to them over again. This is a survival mechanism. And ultimately, it's literally self-preservation and protection, to the point of protecting their introverted sensing demon. It's really frustrating. And, albeit annoying, it is so annoying. I'm an ENTP, right? I already have to struggle with wearing masks everywhere I go. I'm already an extremely skilled liar. Everyone in the world by default has more than enough reason to not trust me. Yet, as an ENTP, trust is my number one need. And I do not get it very often because of my actions that I take in order to just survive, right? So I take a lot of hits. And, let's be honest, there's never a better liar than myself, right? Because, I was taught how to lie. I was actually formally trained on how to lie when I worked for an intelligence agency about a decade ago. And I was taught how to lie. And basically in my training, it was, hey, the best lies are the ones you can make come true. And if you can't do that, then at least mix in some truth to your lies so that they cannot tell the difference. And then was born the power of narrative, and utilizing narrative as an ENTP to my personal advantage so I can survive intelligence gathering operations in the field, which is pretty cool. However, I utilize that skill in every other area of my life, as most ENTPs do, because we wear masks. The ENTP is the golden pair of the INTJ. And because the INTJ knows by default the ENTP's capacity for lying and mistrust, that oftentimes they will just assume that the ENTP is just like everyone else. And don't forget, season 7, I believe it's episode 12 or 13, which is the virtue and vice of the INTJs. The virtue being they are very, very trusting to the point of being gullible, versus insanely mistrusting to the point of being paranoid. And this particular Acolyte question is relating to the INTJ propensity to be paranoid. They are very paranoid people by default. And God, this paranoia is such a problem, because oftentimes when I meet INTJs, I'm just so excited, I'm so overjoyed, I'm so elated to meet these people, because only one of them exists. Out of every 100 people is one of them. In fact, I even met one last night. They were pretty awesome. And we agreed to have a drink, but they didn't show because they're like, oh, you're just trying to take advantage of me. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'm scary. I'm C.S. Joseph. I am scary. I have extroverted sensing demon. I can see into your soul so easily. I know everything, what to do, what to say, how to behave, all of it. Therefore, I end up becoming this person who looks too good to be true. That's the problem with the INTJ. Anything that just looks too good to be true, they just automatically dismiss it and move on. Therefore, they see me as this very dangerous person. I'm a very dangerous fellow. Very dangerous. So because of that, they don't want to take the risk. They don't want to risk their introverted sensing demon getting familiar with me, their introverted intuition hero getting attached, and then ultimately realizing all along that I didn't want them with their any nemesis, and that leads to rejection from their extroverted sensing inferior. Again, they do this from the perspective of self-preservation. However, that NI hero is so outcome dependent, the introverted feeling child is so hell-bent on getting return on investment and investing in others, because they know the second that make that decision, it's a no point of return. They cannot return. They cannot get out of it. It's like they're jumping into a pit. They have to be sure that jumping in that pit is what they actually want to do, because they know as they jump in that pit, it'll take them potentially, maybe even up to a decade, to dig themselves out of that pit if they realize that that pit is not something that they want to do. And they all approach their relationships in the same manner. It's understandable. I totally understand why they do this. The problem is, though, is that INTJs are typically very shallow people. And that shallowness lends them to making the same mistake that ESTJs make, which is judging people on appearances, judging a book by its cover, basically. And because of that, they would rather, utilize their judgments to rely on shallow flim-flam than something they actually want, need, or care about. They don't give people a chance because they're too scared. INTJs do not give people a chance because they're too scared. And you'd think that, NI hero within an INTJ, you'd think that NI hero is basically this thing that can take any risk, right? But then I see NI inferiors willing to take more risks than an NI hero. And it's because the NI hero likes to rest on its laurels, and it doesn't want to take things risky, and then Battleground of Titans go in, and then all of a sudden you see the INTJ, the triple pragmatic, the triple independent of all the types, all of a sudden they are risk averse. Unless they can find a shortcut to reduce the amount of risk, then they're going to do it. And oftentimes I see INTJs out there who are so risk averse that they just don't understand that, because they won't take any risk without a shortcut. And the thing is that from their perspective, everything in life can be shortcut. That's a very immature point of view. And so many INTJs have that immature point of view. And I hate that. I loathe that about them. And I keep trying to show them, hey, no, you need to be willing to put in maximum effort. Maximum effort is the only thing in the long run that's going to guarantee success. Yeah, find shortcuts where you go, but shortcuts all come with a cost, especially when it comes to relationships. You cannot shortcut people, but they think you can because of extroverted feeling trickster. They don't realize that the act of shortcutting people is a big problem. It is. Because then the INTJ just comes off super mechanical. They come off like they're really dark or trying to manipulate people. And they have no idea. They have no idea that this is what they're actually doing. And it's frustrating. Very frustrating. And ultimately wrong. So yeah. Oh dang, just got a rough text message. Apparently my privacy is being violated. Great. And that's another thing about INTJs is privacy. It's another reason why they don't trust people is because of privacy. They don't want their privacy being violated. Privacy is everything. It is everything to the INTJ. Problem is that they often violate the privacy of other people. They are like these big hypocrites. And that too is a problem. So it's just something to be aware of when dealing with them. So ultimately the answer to this question is they have to be willing to take the risks. Risk people. Risk exposure. Risk familiarity. You can actually do it. Obviously, attachment is unhealthy. Avoid it. You need to focus on forming bonds. And if you're not getting a two-way street bond and just getting a one-way street attachment, then obviously cut the person out of your life. But here's the thing. There is no preventative measure. You can't prevent problems. You have to accept that those problems will come, but you have a tool, you have a rubric, you have a system you can follow, which is, if it's not a two-way street relationship, cut them out of my life and move on to the next person. But always move on. They always have a hard time moving on because they just get so invested and so chosen into the other person, they end up not getting very far. And that too can be a serious problem. So watch out. Alright folks, I think I've hammered this question to death. So thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.